Welcome to Legion Radio, a podcast about all things e-commerce, the official podcast of the private label Legion, hosted by Tim Jordan.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Legion Radio, the podcast of the private label Legion community. We talk about a lot of e-commerce stuff. Today I'm bringing another special guest to you, Karen Waksman. How you doing, Karen?
Hey, so excited to be here, guys.
And I have to admit, this has been a long time coming. Karen and I have messaged back and forth and messed up our schedules. She was in Israel. Then I messed up somehow the time zones, or she messed up. I think she messed up, but I think she's going to make me take the blame for it.
My fault.
Yeah. So we finally got our ducks in a row and got her on here. And Karen, you might not know this. Do you know the first time that we ever encountered each other?
I don't know. Some
trivia? Not an offline event. It was an online event.
What? Oh, it was?
You don't remember? Yes, I love surprising people. It was an Illuminati Mastermind webinar.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
You were right before me, so I had to listen to you waiting for my cue to start, and then you probably exited and didn't get to hear my little pitch.
Yeah, it was really long.
They are long. They're like 3 hours long.
I was like, I gotta go.
Yeah, they don't do those anymore. I think those have.
Oh, but I was like, my head was good. But, some people can handle that. I have ADD or something. I couldn't.
So that was my first time noticing what you've got going on, and I've still somewhere got notes from listening to what you're talking about, because I thought this whole idea of like moving Amazon private label products to retail was so foreign. And I'm sure you see that all the time with all the Amazon sellers you talk to. Everybody forgets that an Amazon seller is still just a product seller, right? So like your product can be sold anywhere as long as you get it ready. So anyways, it's been kind of a long time coming. Glad to have you here. I know that you've got a little bit of an interesting background. You came not from the e-commerce space, but from big retail space. I know you worked for a number of years as a buyer agent, all that good stuff. So can you give us just like, not a buyer agent, you helped buyers.
Sell to buyers, yeah.
Sell to buyers. That's right. See, I knew I'd get it wrong. We're not going to edit that out. You guys get to listen to all the goofy mistakes I make a fool out of myself. Because she literally told me that 10 minutes ago and I got it backwards. So
all good. I'll clean it up. Don't you worry.
There you go. All right. So give us the brief rundown on your experience and kind of like the world you lived in with the retail buyer space.
Yeah. So again, my name is Karen Waksman. I'm the founder of a company called Retail MBA. I started my career out as a manufacturer's rep. That's a sales rep that sells products to retailers. Back in early 2000s, I used to sell products to all the major retail chains. I started in fashion, then I changed to jewelry, and then to accessories, and then to gifts, and then to la 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 la. And it turned into like a lot of different product categories. And I did that for many years. I loved selling products into retailers. I was good at it. Never thought I would be a speaker, teacher, writer. Never thought I would be sharing my, what I did with others. About 10 years ago, I had kind of like a lightning bolt moment where I saw that all these people who had these great products, who wanted to get products into stores, actually couldn't do it. Not because they didn't have a great product, but because they just didn't understand how retailers operated, what the retailers wanted, and instead were coming to me to try and help them fix that. But I wouldn't even be able to sell for them because they didn't understand what they had to do as business owners. And so I kind of just got an aha moment understanding that these people really need a little bit more data and nobody was helping them. So ultimately, I decided to, write out my formula, write out what I did, because I wasn't going to be able to help them anyways, and I just wanted to help people out. Anything from packaging to pricing to what's going on with the retail space, what to say to buyers to get them to buy all these things. And then ultimately, I started teaching it to like the creative types, because I loved them, the engineers, the ones who made all this cool stuff, but then like didn't even know how to talk to anybody. Yep. I was like, I want to help those guys because I did it on the side. I just wanted to I just wanted to help. I did that, and these guys were getting into stores, and it was like, oh my God, that's kind of cool. That for years, just for fun, 2 years, I should say, on the side, and then eventually, I'm like, I love this, And so I started speaking all across the globe, and speaking at the Consumer Electronics Show, and Digital Marketer, and Alibaba, Global Store, all these different places, teaching this thing. And a lot of people got into retail chains over the years. It's been pretty magical. It's been my, big love. And Amazon sellers came on 5 years ago. All of a sudden, you guys had 6 years, maybe, the Wild West going on. You guys started learning how to make money on there. And then you guys started freaking out over, okay, I'm on Amazon, but what else could I do? Where else can I sell? Or Amazon started increasing the fees and all these things and all your monies in Amazon. So then I started working with Amazon sellers to help them out. And at first it weirded me out because they were all just private label. And I was used to inventors and creative types. And I'm like, look at these people copying somebody else doing something, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this, But then I was like, you know what? They're humans. They're like, they're willing to work. They're willing to understand this world. They have families. They want to make money. I totally get them. I'm an entrepreneur. So like, let me just show you. And it actually worked. And I have so many of the top Amazon sellers, you can honestly say they got into retail chains because of the work that I've done. And I love you guys. So I'm here to help and honor you guys with getting into retail chains. And I'm happy to give you whatever I can today. So that's what we're going to be.
All right. So let me dive in a couple things you said there that kind of piqued my interest. One is, I think that you called us kind of weird as Amazon sellers, right? Did any of you that are listening feel a little bit of shade being thrown there? But it is interesting. And I feel like there's a big difference between like true product inventors and the typical private label Amazon seller. I know there's a difference there. Now, it doesn't mean that like I have people in our Centurion League coaching program that are like private label sellers that are inventing new items. Like it happens. But most of the time it is kind of like following in the footsteps of somebody else. You're just making a better one, or you'd like take a cheap Chinese idea, make it a lot better, put it in better retail packaging, make it a better product. But you don't see any reason why these typical Amazon, quote unquote, Amazon private label sellers can't eventually make it to big box retail, do you?
Not at all. Actually, so when I first met them, I was like in shock. I was like, what is this world of people who are just doing this? So it was me, like, because I was so used to a different. Mm-hmm. Then I looked at what they did. And to be honest with you, I understood, like, what is an inventor? An inventor, they don't really create anything new. They create the next version of an existing product. They're just slightly tweaking whatever's already out there. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, if you look at products, everything is exactly the same, just a better version, a lighter version, a cooler version, a more poppy packaging, whatever. They know how to do it. So so that's what I realized the Amazon sellers just needed to do. They just needed to look at their product. Sometimes they got a winner where somebody just created a product that was kind of interesting and new, and they didn't have to do much, and they just needed to sell it, and you guys were really good at selling it, so why not continue on to retail? Sometimes you guys had a really boring product, like the umbrella. The umbrella guy is my favorite. You know what I mean? He's like killing it on Amazon, and he's like king of umbrellas. And I love that guy, but I'm like, dude, bring me a cooler looking umbrella than the black one that the whole world is selling. But you can do that. You can tweak that umbrella to make it have a magical design with a cool little switchy thing. I mean, it's stupid, but that's what an inventor does. That's what a creator does. So that's why Amazon sellers can do that too. Do you care enough to tweak it a little bit if you have to, if you really pick the boring one, to make it whatever? And trust me, all the buyers have seen every single thing, but they're okay with the slight tweak upgrade if it's newer version of a product that's already converting and selling. But again, there's stuff involved in that as well.
So what I'm hearing is empowerment. I'm hearing encouragement, because I think so many people think that, like, unless I create the new squatty potty or, some like crazy thing, they can't make retail. So you're saying that there's not actually that big of a gap that most quote unquote Amazon sellers are missing.
No, it just, you know what it is? It's like sometimes they're so comfortable behind the scenes and they don't want to change whatever it is they're doing. And so that's the hard part. I can't fix that. You know what I mean? But if there's a little inspiration, a little motivation, a little bit of excitement about willing to do, to learn a little bit about this audience, then, if there's something in you that you're willing to do a little bit of work, I could show you those steps, because I work with so many Amazon sellers who actually want to do the work. If you're willing to do the work a little bit, I can show you how to do it. So, I mean, not just me or anybody. Like, even without me in the equation, I'm not trying to hustle here. I'm saying in the world of retail, you should consider it, because it's a really nice place to put your product in if you are willing to do a little bit.
All right. So I have to ask the obvious question. Most of this audience are e-commerce sellers, and a lot of us are there because we know that is kind of the wave of the future. More businesses and more buying and more consumers are going online. Is it still worth it to sell in retail? And can you explain why?
Totally. I hear that all the time. Yeah, retail is dead. I'm like, first of all, retail's not going anywhere for a while. So, however, in your lifetime, however you are, it's hanging out a while. It's been around a long time. People like to go to physical stores to pick stuff up. Even Amazon purchased Whole Foods because he understands that brick and mortar does help his business in certain categories, especially, right? There are certain products that you have to look at it. You have to touch it. You have to feel it. There's certain types of categories that you're always going to go to that store to pick stuff up. And in general, what happened with the retail chains is, yes, I understand that you guys are getting this because you saw a lot of retailers go under. But what you didn't see is that some of them are surging and killing it. I mean, even Walmart just posted like some crazy sales volumes because they're leveraging the internet to crush, and they have the physical stores, so they can hustle. But what happened was, and the reason this happened was, retailers were doing the same thing for years and years and years, right? Then the internet showed up, and and then Amazon showed up, and Amazon shook things up because they were able to get to the customers faster in certain ways. And there were certain things that they were doing that were making the customers more happy and so forth. And so, retailers got shocked. The ones that were like just being pigs and not doing much and evolving at all.
Like Toys R Us.
Really got hurt and booted out. But there are other ones who stayed strong and said, we got to change. They had to learn how to do the internet. They had to learn how to combine the both. And they had to do all these things. And ultimately, now more than ever, like the ones that are stronger than ever. And so I wouldn't worry about that at all. And trust me, like I have clients who just got the one product on TJ Maxx or whatever. And the rest is all on Amazon or whatever. And they're making millions of dollars on that one account. So, I mean, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of money to be had. So you want to be stubborn? Cool. If you want to look at other possibilities and opportunities, it's really all around you, and retailers are not going anywhere. It's just a different language. And I think most of it is fear or confusion, or it seems overwhelming, which is why they don't do it. And then they blame it on retailers dying. But if you actually did the math and understood what's going on in the world, you'll see there's a lot of magical opportunities there.
All right. So you told me that you have probably worked with and helped over 10,000 people, businesses, inventors, sellers, whatever, in this quest.
Talk to probably closer to 100,000. I've done a lot of stuff over the last 10 years, but yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the numbers are. I don't like to.
But it's a lot. And my point is, you've probably got a really good sampling. And right now, probably, I think you were saying 30 to 40% of your clients are quote unquote Amazon private label sellers, online marketplace sellers that are trying to get to retail. So you probably have a really good understanding of like the most common issues or the most common mistakes or the most common questions that you have to answer to these people all the time. So what I'm hoping you can do on this podcast is share a few of those. And I know that you kind of alluded to a few things you'd like to share. One of them, you talked about hustle. You talked about hustlers and how. And let me go on a rant for a second. I almost hate the word hustle. I hate it.
I don't even remember. You're like putting me in a corner, man. I don't remember.
No. I remember me. But like people call themselves hustlers. Like I want to be a hustler. I want to be a hustler. And the problem is, I think that a lot of times people that see themselves as a hustler do not see themselves as a real business person. Like they don't treat their ventures and treat their time as if it were a real business. So they miss some steps and they build things a little bit on shaky ground. So that's what you were telling me earlier when we were talking was something to the effect, you didn't get into it, I'm hoping you'll share more now, is like these Amazon sellers that want to go into retail have to stop like building a business as if they're a hustler and start building like a real legit business. And it's probably not that hard. So can you explain that just a little bit?
Yeah, and what really what it comes down to is like, look, you're looking at, like, I'm the same way, right? When I first started selling my information and whatever I was doing, it's online, and you're just trying to figure out how to make money, and like, you're trying all the sorts of things. You're looking at videos. You're doing anything you possibly can to try and like make things work. So I totally get that. But there is a point where if you're going to deal with certain ways of selling your product, it's a little bit more professional. So like with retail chains, it's not hard to do. It's not brain surgery, but you got to be a little bit more understanding of that audience and that market. It's like if you sold on Amazon, you can go on YouTube and you can learn like some quick tips and strategies and stuff and then kind of get things moving. But with retailers, one change to order can make you millions of dollars. It can 10x, 100x your business if you really do it right. those are the times where you kind of need to learn a little bit about what you're about to get into, because you could like also really cause problems for yourself. Like you just need to learn a little bit more and not try and like piece it together. Like sometimes I'll talk to people and I see a lot of Amazon sellers do it. They're like, I'm just going to test it out myself. I'm going to go walk into a store. Or I'm going to go do it that way and stuff. I'm like, that's cool. But if you did it that way, then what you did essentially was kind of mess yourself up, because there was a much bigger opportunity here. So with retail, it's more corporate, it's more established. There's more money to be had. It doesn't require you to be that corporate or strategic. You just need to understand it's a different ball game with different verbiage, and you just need to understand it a little bit better versus just jumping into it and testing the waters out. Because if you actually could see how many opportunities there are in retail, the conversions could be immense for you. And so I think that doing that versus like, just sticking stuff to the wall and seeing if it works, take it a little bit more seriously, you know what I mean? And really understand the market a little bit before you jump into it, but then go for it.
And I suspect there are some things you have to do business wise to get ready, get a little bit more professional. Like you probably have to have insurances and like all that good stuff for these big retailers take care of you. So it can't necessarily just be like a side hustle. We just like walk up into a store and it's magical. Like we actually have to get a little more professional with understanding the not just the stores, but the whole like retail community. We have to make sure our business is compliant and ready to get into retail, because they're going to have some different requirements. And we kind of have to, from what I'm gathering you're saying, we kind of have to change our mindset a little bit when we walk in there and do some research and get some learning and understand how to attack those opportunities so we don't screw it up on the first time.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a fine line between telling somebody like, don't screw up and like learn a little bit and then they don't do it, versus having them understand that just like when you sold on Amazon, you needed to get certain, your product in a package and you needed to ship it somewhere. There's certain logistical things that you have to do. With retail, it's exactly the same things. There's certain processes you have to set up. You got to, you know what I mean? You got to get insurance, because if your product chokes somebody, the retailers don't want to get, there's just certain things that the retailers deal with that the Amazon sellers don't necessarily have to deal with, and so it's just a different learning path, and you just have to learn a little bit as to what you have to do. So agreed. I mean, there's just certain things that just require more. It doesn't mean that it's like really hard to do or anything like that, but it is imperative to your success. Plus, buyers at retail chains want to buy on the spot. They're purchasing agents. Their job is to buy. I mean, that's all they do. They don't want a product that's not ready to go today for them to purchase. And so like, in order for you to get an order, you actually have to do X, Y, Z in order to get that buyer to even give you money. Otherwise, you're kind of wasting her time, because she's like, okay, I'm ready to buy on the spot, but you didn't do these things. And I don't know, you know what I mean? I'm not your mommy, go work it out, come back to me so we can like do a deal. And so they're just really all about making money, which is really exciting, but you have to give them some things that they can do. And that's what happened when I was in the early stage of this, seeing people who didn't have those pieces set up properly, which wouldn't allow the buyer to buy from them anyways, and I couldn't sell for them. So sometimes people will just go, I'm just going to go hire a rep to go do this for me. But if you're giving them, pieces and and it's not ready for the retailers, it's going to be really hard for you to make real money. And the reps don't care that much. It's not their business. You're giving them money, but you know what I'm saying? Like, so you got to care a little bit in order to proceed.
All right. So get your mindset, get your understanding, get your business ready for retail. I assume that another thing that you see people screw up a lot is not having their product ready for retail. And you kind of shared a little bit with me before that a lot of people's products may not be as far from ready as they think they are. Sometimes we assume the worst and we think we're 10 miles away, and we may just be a few feet. So can you share, some of the biggest mistakes you see people making not being ready, and some of the simplest things we can do to get our product ready?
So let's talk about packaging. I mean, packaging is the one thing that torments all of you. That's the one thing that I've seen with Amazon sellers who basically are like, I want to sell to retailers, but like, I don't have my packaging. I have a white box or whatever, and I don't have time to figure that out. I don't even know how to figure it out. I don't even know like what would be the right thing to put on the box or the packaging or whatever. So that's one example of something that Amazon sellers ask me about every single day. So let's just answer that for you and give you some things that you can do immediately. And this is actually, this is just how you handle packaging for retailers. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, hit it.
So basically, and packaging would be the number one thing. And then there's other things that, to set up properly. But for you guys, since it torments you so much, we'll just get into it. So packaging, how you figure it out. You go to your, you figure out which retailers you want to sell to. So you want to sell to Walmart or whatever, Target, go to Walmart, Target, and those types of stores. If your product's perfect for Macy's and those types of places, go to those stores, CVS, whatever it is for you, start walking around stores. Go to the section of the store where your product will fit. Like if you have a consumer electronics product, go to the consumer electronics section of the store. If you have an auto product, go to the auto section of the store, whatever it is. Look for your top 3 competitors, right? Make sure that they, have similar products to yours, okay? And really all you want to do is copy them. Why? Because the buyer has already told you what she likes for packaging. She already told you the size, the shape, most of the design elements. She basically is telling you exactly what she approves of, and it's on store shelves. Retailers are so old school that basically what they're trying to do, they're not so old school, but what they're trying to do is to keep a flow in their stores, and they can't change much from what their flow currently is. So, because it'll look weird if they throw in something too big or too small or too wonky or whatever in that section of the store. It needs to look nice, right? And so they basically are telling you what they want. So if you see that your top 3 competitors, some version of them are there, you want to grab them. You want to give them to your packaging person. You say, copy it. If it's in a box, make a box. If it's in a hanging card, make it a hanging card. The only difference, don't change the size, don't change anything else. The only difference is the design elements, what words you're going to use, how you're going to make it pop. You know what I mean? Maybe if you have like some bottles you're selling, maybe you do a 2-for-1, and so that even though it's the same size, it has a 2-pack. And the reason you might want to do that is because when a customer is looking on a store shelf and they're seeing that everyone has 1 product on the shelf, but yours has 2 because it's an extra bonus, you might buy that product just because it's like, a nice product, like it's an extra thing for the same price. Whatever it is, you want to keep the exact size and shape and only get your graphic designer to change the coloring and the fonts and or the verbiage to make it really pop and stand out. And by the way, you can probably copy most of the things that they're saying on there, just make it better. It's really
they've already done the work to figure out what it takes. You can see what they've done that worked, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Not at all. Like, people get so complicated with retailers. It's so simple. Like, the buyer can't change anything. She literally is stuck. She cannot change much. Yes, every once in a while you'll see that, like, the circle can versus the square or whatever. But generally speaking, it cannot, if it's too big, they won't buy it. It has to be the same. So isn't that easy? So don't stress out anymore. Go to your store. Now, I'll say one thing. I always get this. But Karen, my product's different. There's no other product like it in the market, so I can't copy, that packaging. And I'm like, okay, look. I'll use auto accessories as an example. So say you have a newer version of something that no one else is selling. We'll just give you that credit, even though most of the time it's kind of the same version of the same thing. Maybe yours is a tube while someone else is a clip. I don't know what it is. But the concept there is the same. You're going to go walk around and you're going to look at stores and you're going to look at other auto accessories that are almost the same concept, or cosmetics. Like somebody created a beauty tool, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, to pick stuff off people's faces, or like, gross things. I see a lot of really, like, I don't know what I've seen. There's a lot of gross things out there, but they make a lot of money, and I can't imagine having to do that all day long looking at that thing. But anyways, like, just to use something like a cosmetic tool, for example. There are other cosmetic tools. It may not be the same one. Just grab that packaging and copy it because the buyer's already telling you. Now, you don't just grab it from one store. You got to walk around different stores because maybe this one has a slightly wider one and this one has a slightly thinner one. And you want to see what the general consensus is so that you don't have to keep creating packaging over again. You want to go to the different stores, look at the big map, walk around, pick the ones and say, okay, after all my data, I'm going to just make this one because it'll probably fit in all those stores. Then you don't have to pay for it again and do it again. Does that make sense?
It does. Yep.
That's it. That's packaging. And similar to pricing, by the way. Like, if you're going to, like, when I teach, I show people, go after 40 stores. Don't go after like one store. Go after a lot of different stores. Now, that might freak people out. But the concept is, if most buyers say no, all you need is one yes, then all the other ones will start stacking up. You know what I mean? You just need somebody to say yes to your product.
So I'm getting another theme because what you just told me seemed fairly easy. There's a lot of data. There's a lot of information by looking at other people's packaging. We got to get our packaging ready but it's not that difficult to figure out how to do that. So
none of this.
Again, I feel like this is empowering, encouraging, because, people are freaked out, but I feel like most people are not that far away. And if they are, it's easy to fix.
Totally. The ones that are all fear-based about it usually, come to me eventually when they start seeing other people do it. I just hope that one day people will just understand this. But I want to say something about pricing. And the reason I mentioned the 40 stores, and I wasn't trying to go on a tangent, what I was trying to tell you is that the buyer's telling you the pricing for stores. So it's $19.97 on the store shelves. You go to a bunch of different stores, they're all around $19.97. Your retail price needs to be around $19.97. For Amazon sellers, do not make your price cheaper on Amazon than on retail store shelves, because that'll annoy the crud out of the buyer, because she's competing against Amazon. It has to either match. And if you're going to go after stores, you just need to know that you cannot have like a better deal on Amazon than what you're pitching the buyer for. And that's really, really important. So not only are they telling you what pricing you need to be at, so you can choose whether or not it makes sense for your product type, and you also just need to make sure that you understand in the realm of Amazon, you do not want to go in, when you're trying to sell her a $19.97 MSRP, but your product's selling for $14. She will be like so mad at you, because she's like, you don't care about me. You only want to make money. I'm trying to figure out how to make money here too. So that was an important distinction.
Gotcha. All right. So you said earlier, I made some notes, that one chain store order can 10X to 100X your business, right? I know that sounds fanciful, but I'm also hearing kind of a general theme that most people are not that far off. So what are one of the 2 or 3 maybe small like mindset tweaks that Amazon sellers should make when they're attempting to get into retail? Like, I'm sitting here, I've got a product that's in a white box. I can't do this. It's like too hard. I'm too far off. Like, how do you coach people and encourage them and say, hey, this is possible and you should definitely do this? How do you readjust people's thinking?
Well, some people freak out on the 10X to 100X concept, because they're like, all they see is how much money they have to put out in order to get money back. So they're like, I don't want to get into retail because it's going to be like 100,000. What if the buyer buys 100,000 units? And like, how the hell would I figure that one out? I don't have that kind of cash flow. So I kind of like the growth, stage. And like, so retail is too confusing. So that like kind of freaks me out. And that couples into what you're saying. So here's how it works with retailers. And this will calm a lot of people down. So yes, it could be 10X or 100X your business, but it's a little bit of a slow moving ship. So the way it works with retailers is if they like your product, they'll test it. They don't just buy a ton of units. I've seen massive retailers buy 100 units of your product, 1,000 units of your product, 5,000, 10,000 if they think it's gold. You know what I mean? More if like they like are at Christmas and you have the exact product that they know will kill.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they're starting small. In their top 20 stores, top 50 stores, they set this up on purpose because they don't want to buy a lot of volume and then have to eat the money themselves or, deal with you with a headache. They actually want to do this together, right, as a team. So for those of you who are worried about that, they're going to start small in their first test. And you just got to make sure that the test converts, right? Because if it doesn't sell, then they're like, it's not working. But generally speaking, I feel like you'll be confident enough. There's ways to like make sure that it converts. You could tell all your friends.
Sure.
There's, you could drive traffic online. There's things that you could do to get people to buy things in stores. But essentially, they'll buy a small quantity. So you're not going to die at first. You know what I mean? You're going to start small. Then you'll also be in control and in charge. Then if the product sells, they'll reorder. And then they start growing their reorders. And that's where the good money comes in. And by then, you will ultimately, feel more confident, feel more comfortable. They're feeling you out. You're feeling them out. They want to make sure you're a good vendor. You're shipping on time. You know what I mean? So it's a slower, gradual thing. And then it's like, can be the boom. You know what I mean? Like where it's magical and you make a lot of money. So I feel like that helps people in a lot of ways in that they'll understand that there's huge opportunity and it doesn't have to like harm the rest of your business or stress you out or, take all your money out. And by the way, there are third-party companies that are happy to give you the money for these orders because they know they'll get paid by that retailer. So there are third-party companies actually who will, for a couple points off of the purchase order, will give you the money to actually pay for the order. So if you get an order from Bed Bath & Beyond and it's maybe a little too uncomfortable for you financially, like you don't know how you're going to pay for those goods, there's a third-party company. If you set it up in advance before you start going after stores, there are many third-party companies who will actually front you the money. You don't have to pay for it. They take a couple of points off, when points equal percentage. And what that basically means is that when they actually get paid, you get paid, everybody gets paid, and it all works out, and you don't have to take it out of pocket. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's awesome, because I think that the capital involved is one of the scariest things for people.
And nobody has the money and the cash in the bank to go sell the retail chains. It's unheard of. You know what I mean? Some do, but a lot don't. I mean, like the misconception that like you need all this money in the bank. I mean, retailers would never be in business. So they'll ask you, it's called retail factoring, by the way, just happy to help. So there are companies out there that can support you. And by the way, they're doing it because they don't care about your ability to, have good credit. What they actually care about is the fact that the retailer is the one that's paying them, and they already know what their consistency is, whether or not they're going to get paid. So they're not even basing it off you. They're actually basing it off the retail chain. You did all the crap work of having to get the buyer interested in your product and buy things. They get to leverage that and take a couple points, and it's really not that hard for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's perfect sense. That's awesome.
So that helps people out a little bit.
Yeah. So the other thing that I know to be true is that there are a lot of people that make it huge in retail that don't necessarily come with the quote unquote like necessary skills. They might not be great salesmen. They might not know how to talk to retail stores, right? And I suspect you've helped a lot of people that were shy, introverted product designers, probably folks that had very little business skill, but you were able to get them into retail. So it's probably one of those things that most anybody can do it as long as they're accessing and using the different tools at their disposal. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, it's more than that, though. It's like, okay, think about it from the buyer's perspective today. So back in early 2000s, when I used to sell to retailers, and hopefully this will calm people down. Early 2000s, the buyers stayed there for years. If they didn't like you, you don't get sales. That's just it. You didn't like my hair that day, I'm done. You know what I mean? And then and the buyer never left, so I would never. So everybody has this conception that retailers, the buyers are there. You need to talk to them and take them to meals and all these things. It doesn't work that way at all. About 10 years ago, everything shifted, which is why I started teaching this stuff, because I realized it was the perfect time for business owners to start selling to retailers, because what the retailers did was they got rid of all the old school buyers, not rid of them, but what they did was they changed them around. So now buyers change jobs every 6 months to a year. They do that to make sure that there's no, relationship. There's no emotional connection. They're only looking for new products that are going to be hot. They're going to sell. Like when the internet showed up, they had to look for new, hot, interesting products, and the old buyers were buying from their friends. So like what was happening is, so now it's like a lot more churning of products, a lot more interesting stuff. And so that's kind of, it's really, really supportive to the smaller company. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it completely makes sense. So literally the time has never been better probably to take someone who's not quote unquote qualified and pedigreed and polished and can still get into retail. So
and hire somebody. I mean, you don't have to do it yourself.
That's true.
But you do need to be the owner of this opportunity, because you are the one who's got to create it so that somebody can actually sell it appropriately for retail. So you can't just like completely offset all of it. I mean, there's packaging, there's pricing, there's certain things that you have to set up so that, and then, you know what I mean? But you can actually, like, I have so many people I know who actually go and work with people, to just do the reach out. But honestly, so the point is the buyers are so busy now looking at new products that the interaction is 15 minutes, maybe max on the phone There's not a lot of like, if they're looking for specific things in a specific way, just show me what you got, say it in a way that I'm going to like just be excited about your product. Because if you say the right words, they'll hear you, set that up properly. It's mostly strategy. They'll pay attention to you. There's not a lot of like human contact. So that's why most of my customers are people out in the world are, who actually, sounds like I'm trying to sell what I'm doing, but I just, from my perspective, that's why I do all day long. But all I'm saying is that these buyers don't require a lot of emotional connection or relationship or anything at all. And they're just looking for that product. And so the person who's shy, don't worry about it so much. You're not going to have some deep conversation with the buyer. I assure you, you don't have to turn into something that you're not. They're only looking at your product and making money.
Gotcha. So one of the hot topics right now talking about businesses, and it goes back to like the term hustle. A lot of people build these business and, they're hustlers, but not thinking long-term. When I think long-term, I'm also thinking about things like an exit strategy, right? So how does having a few retail buying contracts affect the overall evaluation if you want to sell your business of a typical private label, private product type business?
Yeah, I did an interview recently with a mergers and acquisitions expert. And he's a rock star, been doing it 40 years. And he was the one who actually initially he's a dear friend of mine, and he kills it, multi-billion-dollar deal. I mean, he's just, and he actually sells a lot of Amazon businesses as well. He was the first one that got me to understand how imperative it is for people to add retail accounts to their businesses if they want to sell the company. Because what he was explaining is, look, I go out and I try and sell your company for you, and all your money's on Amazon. It's really complicated for me. It's not hard, and I do it, but you make a certain amount of money because what if Amazon changes and you're relying on somebody else's database and everything, So there's just certain limitations there. And so, yeah, it's great. I can make sure that they'll make money on it, fairly quickly, but in the long run, there's not a lot of stability there. If you bring me an account that includes a couple of retail accounts at some major stores, all of a sudden the investors are hungry for it, because not only do you have this Amazon business, but you have these retail accounts, and those retail accounts are worth way more than, to them, because it means stability. Not necessarily you're making more money, whatever it is, but it's stability. It shows the stability. In general, as a business owner, you should not put all your eggs in one basket. If it's not with retail, you got to diversify a little. And everybody kind of knows that now, I think. But it's really imperative. In terms of numbers, I have clients now who started with me, took their Amazon products, added a couple of retail accounts, sold their company within a year for millions and millions of dollars. And then what they do now is they actually go and create the product with retail strategy in mind, start at the same time, start a new product on Amazon and going after retail stores, because they know in 1 year they can sell the company and that the investors will go out and buy it. I mean, and for, millions of dollars because those accounts. So you can increase the valuation of your company by, 1 to 3 points per retail chain account. And also just in general, the buyer, the investor, the person purchasing your product, the company as a whole, there's so many more intangible desires around that because it's more stable. Make sense?
Sure. Yeah, it makes complete sense. Awesome. Well, I feel like I'm overwhelmed. I feel like you've given a lot of information and a lot of hope. I know it sounds super cheesy, but also, I was going to say also a lot of reason. A lot of people think, why does retail matter? When we look at valuation and that, one order, through a retail store could be, millions of dollars of orders, and you don't need a lot of capital to get started. There's so many tools and resources out there, and it is worth doing that. It's definitely worth looking at, because the truth is, even when it comes to private label products on Amazon, people are upping their game. They're getting amazing buyer experience packaging put together. And so a lot of these lanes are starting to get tighter anyways. And a lot of these connections are being made. So it does make sense to at least look at this. So I feel empowered. I feel like, I've got products right now that I want to be like, hey, what do you think of this? How can we get this in store that I wasn't thinking about before? So super, super cool stuff. And I know that you do some consulting, you do some training, you have a kind of a step-by-step course, show people how to get into retail. I'm going to pitch it for just a second, tell people how to get to it. For those of you listening, this is not a affiliate link. I'm not getting a cut on this, nothing. I just know that I've seen Karen's information around long enough. I know that she has a good enough reputation in the industry, and some people that I really respect talk highly about what she does and the information that she gives. And I know she lives, eats, sleeps, and breathes in this world of taking products to retail. So if you look in the show notes, you'll see links for her kind of her website information. It's retailmba.com, retailmba.com. Karen, you've also got Karen W at retailmba.com is your email. You guys can hit her up on email, and your phone number is
1-855-RETAIL-2.
I feel like we got to have a better jingle than that. You kind of got jingle-ish, and you kind of you got a little weak.
What?
You just got to get more. You got to get more tone difference. You got to get a little higher, a little lower.
I like the number 855-RETAIL-2. I think that's
855 Retail 2.
I'm going to remember it forever now.
I am. You're probably right. Oh, man. Well, Karen, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Those of you that are listening, make sure to like our Facebook page to get notifications of new content. Join our Facebook group, Private Label Legion group on Facebook, privatelabellegion.com. Business is hickory-flats.com. Check out Karen, like her Facebook page, follow what she's doing. Go to her website so she can get you all cookied and pixel up like she probably does and send you Facebook ads and notifications, cool stuff she's got going on.
I'm not that cool. I'm not that internet marketing, but yeah, a little bit, but not much.
You like how I just called you out? Those of you that can't see the video, she got really quiet there. She was like, what do I say? Because that was awkward.
I mean, I have free content, free stuff. You want to learn more, it's all on there.
Free content on the website. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I do more than just training courses. I do other things. So I'm so happy to support anybody. And either way, just don't be afraid of retail. It's silly, and you're missing out on a lot of opportunities. And I'm just happy to inspire in any way. So that was my goal here. Thank you so much for letting me.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you all for listening to another episode, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
You've just wrapped up another episode of Legion Radio, hosted by Tim Jordan. Past episodes, links, and show notes can be found at privatelabellegion.com.